There is a common misconception that that having no thoughts means being awakened. There is a common misconception that everything has to be silent, and that's how the self and this true oneness is experienced. At the beginning stages of meditation, one experiences what is called inner peace and the inner space. So when one begins to meditate, this is one of the first most important steps in the process of meditation, to familiarize with the inner peace, inner space. And thus, one's attention is directed towards the breath and towards the chest area, the heart, the chest area. And this is something that all of you have experienced many times: inner peace, inner space. And that is where the thoughts subside into. Now, as long as you're meditating, that works out well. But when you come out of meditation, thoughts come back, things come back. So it's not a very sustainable way. It's not a very sustainable experience to be held upon. So some people believe that holding yourself in the inner space, inner peace will somehow get rid of all the thoughts, and thus you won't be bothered again, so to speak. To flip the coin upside down is to ask, why are you bothered, and how you get bothered by your mind? You get bothered by thoughts and the mental energies because they have a certain pull. They have a certain mental, psychological pull, and that is where the thoughts are produced. That is how the thoughts are produced. It is known already that 95% of all the thoughts that pop into one's head are repetitive in nature. They're repetitive and cyclical. They're about the same stories and the same situations, essentially pointing to the feelings. So the next step, an important step, is to meet the feelings. And by meeting the feelings, one then connects more with oneself, and thus the amount of thoughts that are bothering one and emotions that are bothering one are greatly reduced by meeting the feelings. And that's where the silence seeps in and shows its availability. As we progress along the journey of meditation and awakening, when a person connects more to energetics, to the energies, there is already a big amount of bothering thoughts and feelings subsided, because one is now connected not only to their feelings, but to also their emotions and energies. So you see, as you go deeper into yourself, as you connect more with yourself, there's less and less disturbances, so to speak. And one, therefore, is propelled to find that place of undisturbedness. So one synonym to the word silence in terms of awakening is being undisturbed, being unbothered, being balanced. When one goes deeper into presence, that is already a state of a way of being, a state of being. And the silence becomes pretty familiar, pretty common, pretty normal, because you are meeting everything that is being experienced in a deeper way, in a more present way. You are no longer swayed by energies. You're no longer lost in emotions. So you can remain present. And that is the silence of presence. The silence of presence. So going to the beginning stages of meditation in the lower levels of consciousness, that silence is experienced as inner silence and inner peace. And it's very easy to experience that, but it's very unsustainable. As long as you're meditating, you can get into it, but something will, some noises will arise, and then your mind will be instantly triggered, and these judgments arise, and why, and this and that. So all the disturbances rush back in, so to speak. So essentially, one is seeking for mental, psychological, emotional relief, being mentally, psychologically, emotionally undisturbed and relaxed. And that relaxation, a common experience that everybody has is when the end of the day comes and you have kind of done everything that's to be done for the day, and you lay down on the sofa or in your bed, and you're like, everything is done, now I can relax. And there's this lovely presence, lovely way of being naturally is present. Yeah, so you're no longer interested in doing anything. You just want to be and relax. So this is how naturally everybody experiences this deeper relaxation. A big question that everybody asks is, when you are awakened, is there no thoughts anymore? Do thoughts arise? Are they still there? Or what happens with thoughts? And then some big misconceptions is that there is going to be not a single thought anymore. And that's not true. That's not true. Because what are thoughts? Yes, you will not get those annoying thoughts anymore. You're not going to get those judgmental thoughts anymore, those disturbing thoughts anymore, or negative thoughts anymore, because they're all connected to certain energies. all these annoying, disturbing, negative, judgmental, they're just connected to certain energies, and you have worked through them. You have worked through them. So they don't disturb you anymore. So you're not getting any more than 95% of thoughts, which are just repetitive thoughts, which are, same stories spinning around in the head. So those ones, no, you don't get them anymore, because you have worked your way through it. You have done your job. Unless someone, kind of quickly opens up into full consciousness, then they still might experience thoughts because they need time for integration. So that might happen. However, speaking when one is more integrated into consciousness, so you don't get those, kind of, distractive thoughts that are related to certain things that you don't want to see and don't want to look at, and trying to avoid. So no, you don't get them because, in awakened state, you are very open to see everything, to meet everything, to experience everything as it is. So thus, there's no more resistance to energy, to feelings, emotions, to the mind. There's no more resistance. So when you don't resist the mind anymore, the mind relaxes. It is, of course, there's a process of deconditioning, and the deepest resistance is the I thought, the resistance to the present moment as it is. So once that is addressed and dealt with, then everything is recognized to be okay as it is, and no longer resisted as it is. So therefore, most of the thoughts, they are gone. Yes, they're gone. So that is one big category of majority of thoughts. The other kind of thoughts that actually do come up are some deeper inspirational thoughts, intuitive thoughts, something arising, maybe creative ideas popping up. And therefore one would ask, where do they come from? They come from self. They come from self, they come from this deeper, much deeper place. And these thoughts are very welcomed. You never resist them. You never actually resisted them, ever. When your heart, when a good idea comes to your mind, you love it because it just makes complete sense. So you never resisted it, ever. And therefore they're welcomed. And, from your heart, intuitively, something arises and you say, oh yeah, this, I should do that. And, it sounds really good. So you don't resist it. It's totally fine. So certain creative, intuitive, inspiring thoughts or ideas do arise, and they're absolutely welcomed. They're absolutely welcomed. It's so nice to get them. They're like, oh, they're lovely. Sometimes some thoughts, another category of thoughts can be clarifying thoughts. So you are, you're going about your day to day, and every day is a new day. And many days there are some new things happening, some new energies. And especially now in the global kind of rise of vibration, there are a lot of new galactic energies pouring in. So we are getting a lot of inspiration happening here. All these new energies are pouring in, and some it takes a bit more kind of centering to meet those new energies arising, because they're totally new. And sometimes some thoughts may arise which kind of explain or clarify what these new energies are about. They're kind of translate energy into clarity. So that's another category of thoughts that come in, and they're also really nice because they just clarify what this new kind of feeling or energy is about. And the last category of thoughts are telepathic communicative thoughts. Now, telepathy is not so common at this point in time, but everybody has that gift. And sometimes it just happens that, you think about another person, and the other person says, "Oh, I just thought about you too." And actually there was an established telepathic link. So that's how you may receive some thoughts which are actually to do with communication. And they're also, very welcomed, because it's just a way of communicating with another being. So when we investigate what the thoughts are, how do they arise, then we can understand more clearly what silence is and what it is really about. So silence is not necessarily having no thoughts. Awakened silence. Yeah, the awakened silence is not necessarily having no thoughts. The awakened stillness or silence is not necessarily doing nothing. So the real silence, or the Buddha mind, the empty mind, so to speak, this real awakened silence is a better word to use is openness. Openness. It is openness which is undisturbed. And that's what allows one to understand more clearly what this, in other words, consciousness is. It is awakened, it is openness. And I also call it sometimes open, alive silence or stillness. So consciousness is the open, alive, aware stillness, silence. But it doesn't mean that there's no activity, that there's no energy, that there's no thought arising. Because the question would be, to whom does a thought arises? So if there is no I anymore, there is no problem with thought anymore. Because the I was like a little, we can say something in between. The I is something in between, and the thought arises and it hits the I. A thought cannot go through, so it hits the I. And the I then, takes a thought, and then it does something with it. It starts intertwining. But when there is no more I, A thought arises and it just passes by. Just came up and went. Yeah, there's no more resistance, no more wall. Just came and went. No problem. A thought came, no problem. So the same way, how about feelings, emotions? They of course come, they arise. But since there's no I, there's no problem with the feeling, with emotion. So the true silence and stillness is this openness. A common analogy is the sky. The sky is open, so you are open. And actually all of you are open. All of you have this openness. You are this openness. And the only thing is that, you know, you're not so familiar with it. You're not so comfortable with this openness. You prefer to feel, to stay with what you're more comfortable with. You prefer to have a little conversation in your head because it makes you feel a bit comfortable. You know, some people say, well, I like to have little conversations in my mind because I feel more comfortable like that. There's somebody to talk to. You know, so as long as you are valuing, you know, the mental activity, then it's your comfort zone. So all of you, your nature is openness. That is your real essence, real nature. But then you have your preferences, your comfort zones, your safety zones. You say, I prefer to kind of keep things to myself. Yeah, to have a bit of privacy, to you know, to control, you know, things inside me and so on. So all of these are kind of justifications of a certain unwillingness to be open and naked. Yeah, so I just use the word naked. Naked doesn't mean being uncomfortable. It means being exposed. And exposed or naked means being in a clear light. And guess what? What is consciousness? It's a clear perception. It is a clear light. It is a self-luminous, or simply meaning self-aware light. So this openness is self-aware. You are self-aware. All of you are. And then you notice that something is a bit hidden, or I have my comfort zone inside me. So I'd rather stay, you know, in my cozy corner because that's what feels more comfortable to me. You know, being in this exposed light, you know, might not feel comfortable to you. So therefore you prefer certain, you know, combination of energies and mental, emotional, psychological energies where you kind of linger in it. Yeah, rather than being in the open light. So the true meaning of silence is in reality it's openness. It is beyond thoughts, because there's no more problem with thoughts. It is beyond feelings, beyond energies, because there's no real problem with any of that. You are open. You're the openness. That's who you are. And that openness is silent. Because it is in that openness that a thought arises. And just like it arises, the same way it leaves. unless, you know, it inspires you, and you see some value in it, so you would then, you know, do something with it. So essentially, another analogy is that, you know, thoughts, emotions, energies is like a movie, but the movie is projected on a screen. So in essence, you are the screen which is silent, but it doesn't mean that it's absent. It doesn't mean that it's dead. It doesn't mean that the screen is not alive. This is why I use the word open aliveness. Because the screen actually is the most alive thing there ever is. Your awareness is the most alive thing there ever is. In the awareness, you recognize excitement. In the awareness, you recognize aliveness or vibrancy of experience. In the awareness, you recognize stillness. When the stillness is simply there is a wave, there is a wave. Yeah, so from the stillness, a wave arises and it settles. So essentially, in the awareness, you arise the stillness, the wave and the stillness. In the awareness, you arise, you see, oh, it's a silent moment. I'm aware of silence. So therefore, the question arises, which is more silent? The experience of silence or the awareness of silence? The awareness never speaks. It always shows or allows one to be aware of what is. So now coming back to my, you know, to myself in the past, you know, I was a type of a meditative person who really kind of valued silence and valued peace. Particularly peace was my thing. so you know, so I spent like thousands and hours in stillness meditations, you know, putting up this Zen music and you know, these peaceful songs and so on, and they really helped kind of to still, you know, these waves of the mind, you know, to bring more harmony, basically to bring more peace. And this is why I enjoyed, you know, these you know, Zen type of spa music, so to speak, especially Asian music, because it's like so harmonious music. Then I reflected about classical music, but then I found it's like very emotional. So it you know, classical music is usually very, very emotional. It's like the more there are emotions in the classical music, the better it is. So no, I left the classical music for a while because, you know, many of the very well-known pieces, you know, there is a moment of silence, and then like boom, 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 and then again silence. So I stick more with the Asian kind of you know, music style, because they would keep the silence there going on, you know, the peacefulness. Although of course there are some you know, classical pieces which are very beautiful and which are very like harmonious. So you kind of have to find, you know, your playlist. So I used to be that type of person, you know, who really valued peace. And then, you know, when I shifted into awareness and consciousness, full consciousness, then I had a moment of reflection of my past. And then I realized, you know, I was so much, you know, in the silence, in the peace, but that was not the real peace. It was not the real silence. because it was kind of trying to hold it, trying to keep that peace, trying to kind of avoid the noise, avoid the energies, to avoid the emotions and so on. So I recognize it was a dual, there was a duality in it. It was a dual piece because it was dependent. And then being in a self-awareness, then I reflected that, wow, the awareness is so alive, but so quiet. And that is the real thing. It is the real peace. And it's not absent of any life. It's really full of life, but it's peaceful. And that's where these dualities just dropped away. So there was a realization that the real empty mind, it's not so correct to say empty mind, because there is no mind. You are open, and the mind is only a byproduct of disturbance and misidentification. So the mind is a byproduct, and that's why when teachers say that there is no mind, well, there is no mind, because it is a byproduct of a certain disturbance, a certain distortion. So and then people, for the people like to dumb things down, so they say, my mind, the mind, I don't like the mind is this, the mind is that. And in that line of thinking, you have no power. That kind of thinking is totally not helpful. If you inquire, what is the mind? There is no mind. Change your words. Just recognize there are thoughts. Yes, there are thoughts. There are emotions. Yes, there are emotions. There are certain feelings. Yes, they're there. And certain energies. Yes, they're here. So meet those things. Meet them. The mind, you cannot meet it. So thinking that I don't like my mind, what do you mean by that? You don't like your thoughts, so look at your thoughts. Why we don't like them? What are your thoughts? Emotions, which ones you don't like? So you see how much power is lost by these generalizations and dumbing things down. And in the kind of slang, there's even further kind of slang English Americanism, where they constantly invent further, associated, further associations of even further dumbed down things, that even if you know English, I sometimes meet some, young Americans or English kids, and when they speak, I don't know what they're speaking about, because they're using such a slang that you don't know what they're talking about. So it goes further and further away from the real power that one has to meet things in reality. So one has to watch, where the power goes. And so coming back to different types of silences. Yes, when at the beginning of meditation journey, you meet the inner peace, inner silence. It's an experience. It's a certain experience. The next big stop is presence. That's where, I did spend quite a while, and it's already more real silence because you are present. It has more realness to it. But going into the true awakened silence it is the light of consciousness itself. And that's where some of you will say, like, oh, it doesn't make sense. How can this sharp awareness be the silence? Well, get to know it, because that is the real thing. Get to know your awareness. In awareness, you recognize stillness. So which one is more still? If you recognize peacefulness, as another lovely feeling, how do you recognize? Because of your own awareness. So therefore, in the analogy of the screen and the movie, if the movie shows a peaceful, lovely night, which thing is more real, the screen or the movie? Because the next morning, the peaceful night ends and the sun rises and the activity happens. So therefore, that lovely, peaceful night, stillness of the night, was just an experience. But the screen itself never moved anywhere. It never stopped existing, being truly alive and truly silent. It was always there, no matter what the movie was on it. A lovely, peaceful stillness of the night, or some, very loud scene portrayed on the movie, like maybe a concert or fireworks or explosions, and it's an experience. So the real stillness, the real meaning of silence, I would correct maybe the Buddhist view of empty mind, because there is no mind, first of all, and the emptiness is not truly empty. It is awareness. It is alive. It is always, it's the fullest thing there is and the emptiest thing there is. That's where all these dualities truly dissolve, because awareness is beyond emptiness, beyond fullness. So I would correct, the usual thought of empty mind. However, emptiness is a good pointer. It's a good pointer. It says, it points to the openness. And that I see a good reason why Buddha used the word emptiness, because it's the least thing that you can put your finger on. So however, if he used word openness, probably he would have saved many countless hours of monks debating the nature of emptiness and fullness. So if you use the word openness, then it doesn't make any more sense. Is it open, or is it full or empty, and what is empty, what is not empty, and so on. Open is open, and that's it. In a way. So so essentially, the silence that you seek is a lot closer to you, because it is your own awareness. And the true peace, the true silence, can be discovered in your own awareness. And that's how you get to know what awareness truly is. And this is why, in an instant recognition, am I aware? Yes, I am. A person doesn't see much value of that recognition. You can go on a street and ask a kid, Just say, are you aware? And the child will say, yeah, I'm aware. But they won't give much value to it. They don't see value in it because they don't know what it truly is. And this is how, via various analogies and examples, you get to know the nature of awareness, the nature of your being beyond the being, the true being. So it is, awareness, openness is all within you. And through the path of silence and peace, which was my path, specifically via peace, like seeking for peace, that's how I recognized the real peace beyond disturbance, beyond noise and sounds and anything that may arise in experience. Yeah, so that is a summary of the real meaning of silence. And let's take a few moments now for meditation. And in this meditation, we can focus on going into the stillness of the mind, of your being, of your energy. So stillness of your being, and then shifting into recognition where that stillness is experienced, and to whom we can add as well. So let's take a few moments to slow down, and you can bring your attention simply back to yourself and back to your head, back to your heart, and back to your breath. As you bring your attention back to yourself, you slowly disengage and disengage from other things. And you can take a few moments to slow down. You can take a few moments to notice if there are any feelings, any emotions, or any thoughts, and let them be, let them be. Let them be, and let them slowly, gently subside in you. To enter stillness is to allow things to subside. We're not trying to stop anything, rather to allow things to subside. Things subside, there is a natural surrounding silence. a natural surrounding stillness and space. Inside, there is a sense of relief, a sense of more ease. In the stillness of the lake, a wave of water may arise, but then it also subsides again to the stillness of the lake. Those who want to go deeper, you may recognize that energies are in the present space. And the space itself is still, is silent. And it allows the aliveness of the energies to happen. Want to go even deeper, you may recognize that stillness and silence is experienced in your awareness, that you're having an experience of peacefulness. That you're having an experience of silence and stillness. And to support your meditation, you can allow yourself to be in experience. You can allow yourself to be in the stillness, in the peacefulness. You can allow everything to be as it is and as it is happening. a few moments to familiarize with this space, stillness, to familiarize with this place, this deeper experience. Allow to remind yourself that you are aware of peace. You're aware of space. You're aware of this experience and you can allow it. When we consciously allow, the awareness consciously flows into experience, into that which is consciously allowed. When you are ready, you can slowly start coming back from meditation. when allowing silence, in which everything appears and happens, is your real nature, your real self. This present, open, alive silence, which recognizes this feeling, energy, experience. This open, alive silence is solid rock. It doesn't move. The energy moves. I recognize that the present aware openness is more still than peace, than non-activity. It gave me a big relief because I didn't have to be still anymore. I didn't have to try to be still anymore. I didn't have to try to be peaceful anymore. That effort of peacefulness and stillness, it is a certain balancing activity, a certain harmonizing activity, to balance and harmonize the mental activity, emotional activity into that peacefulness and stillness. And once that is done, then you have access to your deeper self, your beingness, and your present, aware, openness. And of course, when you do stabilize in the present openness, then you recognize that stillness and peacefulness is more of a harmonizing activity. It's a way of balancing energies. Just the same way, if you had a busy day, you need a bit of time to slow down. So the same way, if there was a bit of chaotic energy around, it takes this world is quite chaotic energetically, so just going out to meet some people can be chaotic easily. So then it takes a little while to balance, to balance the energies, to allow things to settle down. Yet again, this openness is not disturbed. It's just the bodily energy that may require, some balance and rest. So the real meaning of naturalness is very difficult to explain in a way, because the body, it's a system. It's a bioenergetic system. It's easy to maybe upset the body. You just eat something wrong and your stomach is upset. You go into chaotic environment and it disturbs your energy field. So in that sense, the body's the body, your energy system is your energy system, and it all requires what it requires. However, who you really are as the present aware openness, that is not disturbed. It doesn't require anything as such. The intermediary phase that many people experience at highest levels of consciousness is that they experience this aware openness, and then things come up energetically from the past, and then some disturbances. So they say that now it's not my experience. I don't feel that I am this consciousness right now, or whatever, this openness right now. But my advice is, take a few moments just to slow down, bring things in more harmony, and here you are back again. So a disturbance is a certain disturbance, and you gain more immunity, you can say, as you integrate more. You gain more immunity as you spend more time, as the openness, as awareness itself. So that's, there's this process of integration, stabilization, and that does take some time, so to speak. Although if one would inquire in the instant, one would say that I am that open awareness or boundless awareness. So the experience, how much one experiences that is that kind of a relative process of opening to it and integrating it. And in you know, and most people in the mid levels of consciousness, you know, even in inner light, inner love, they can experience, they can experience this open awareness. It's possible. It's just, it's difficult to sustain it. It's difficult to stay there. So that's why we proceed forward into presence, you know, to work through some things, you know, to recognize what is more fundamental, to move away a bit from energy into more stability of presence. So we go through all these steps so that one releases energetic dependencies, energetic addictions. I had another discussion today about addictions. So yeah, so spirituality can be addictive and energies can be addictive too. So if you make freedom your addiction, then that's the best one. The openness of the self, that's the best addiction to have. Because biologically, your body responds. You know, biologically, chemically, your body always takes time to get used to something. So why not get used to this aware openness? You know, that's the best thing to train your cells to be used to be familiar with. Yeah, so you're always training your body to be familiar with something, to take something as normal. Yeah, like what you take as normal is that which is very familiar to you and you don't question it anymore. You know, one person takes, you know, his angry mind as normal and he doesn't question it anymore. Another person takes, you know, a peaceful presence as normal and he or she doesn't question it anymore. And the awake being takes this open, alive awareness as normal and there is nothing to question about it anymore. So it is what your system is familiar with. That becomes your experiential reality, so to speak. Your experience, day-to-day experience. So, you know, so that's why, you know, I am here kind of supporting everyone to familiarize with something deeper, with something more fundamental, to get to know it better from different perspectives. You know, there are people for whom peace is quite natural. There are other people who are more active and you know, all different kinds of people have all different kinds of ways of awakening, opening and stabilizing.